The similarities between the New Jersey prior to the one with the robot blew up, where they were, all the bombs were fitted to blow up with flip phones. So they're looking as a key similarity. Meanwhile, here to react, Democratic Senator Chris Coons. He's been here in New York to see us. No, he hasn't, because of a huge meeting in the UN, because President Obama nominated him to be the Democratic representative to the UN General Assembly. Got a series of big meetings, but thanks so much, Senator, for stopping by here first.
Good morning. Appreciate the chance.
I'm sure you didn't expect to be talking about this morning, but what is your reaction? What are you hearing that you're able to tell us?
First, I am so grateful for the men and women of law enforcement, for the very talented and capable folks at the FBI who are now following up on the leads that you were just describing, the men and women of NYPD who are all over the center of this city. And I think we will get leads in the course of the day. I don't have any classified, of course, that I could share, or open source briefing that adds to what you just covered. I do think we're looking at 3 distinct incidents. There may well be ties between the one in New Jersey and the one in New York, and there's an investigation underway, and we can't leap to conclusions about that.
Senator, we want to ask you about Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine both saying that the terrorist strikes here in our cities means that we are winning abroad. He said that they, meaning the terrorists, are losing their ground. Take a listen to what he said, and then we'll get your reaction.
We are waging a punishing war to defeat ISIS on the battlefield, and it's shrinking their space. However, they are looking, as other terrorist groups are, okay, well, we're losing our ground. They're looking for opportunities to engage in terrorist acts in cities, and that's what they're doing, whether it's in Europe or the United States. How do you stop that? That's not primarily military. As you point out, it's primarily intelligence and the sharing of intelligence.
Now, we're not sure if what happened here is connected to ISIS in any way,
right,
but it's a little alarming when he's saying that they're winning abroad when we've just had all these attacks over the weekend.
Well, what Senator Kaine is saying, Senator Kaine, with whom I serve on the Foreign Relations Committee, is that we have, in fact, shrunk the amount of territory that ISIS controls by 40% in the last few months. We've made significant progress in Iraq, some progress in Syria, and the coalition is taking the fight successfully to ISIS on the ground. Because ISIS relies on its popularity, it's the misperception that their twisted goals are advancing for them to attract recruits, they are being more and more aggressive in reaching out and in calling on folks who they don't control or train or support to carry out attacks. The attack in Minnesota may well have been inspired indirectly in some way by ISIS, but there is no evidence that any of these 3 attacks were coordinated, funded, or supported directly by ISIS.
Except for Minneapolis, where they said that is one of our soldiers, correct?
Right, but let's be clear. There's no evidence yet that ISIS knew who he was beforehand, provided him any material or support. He may have been a twisted individual who decided to carry out horrible knife attacks in a mall. ISIS is claiming responsibility for him. But what we've seen in these lone wolf attacks earlier this year is that just because some sick individual carries out a horrible attack doesn't mean ISIS actually successfully trained them, supported them, coordinated them. What Senator Kaine is saying is that sharing intelligence with our allies is now more important than ever, because we're really looking for a needle in a haystack when we're looking for someone who hasn't been overseas, who hasn't been trained, who isn't getting equipment, who's just a twisted individual looking to carry out their own individual attack.
And because the guy was relatively successful in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, St. Cloud, that is to say, ISIS is going to glom onto it and say, yep, he's one of our guys. Donald Trump was tweeting last night. He wants to be president. He's from the other party. He said,
picked up on that.
Yeah, I know. He said this: under the leadership of Obama and Clinton, Americans have experienced more attacks at home than victories abroad. Time to change the playbook. He also tweeted out, Saturday's attacks show that failed Obama-Hillary Clinton policies won't keep us safe. I will make America safe again. The whole idea of terror is to scare people, and people are scared. I know. I was talking to my neighbors yesterday. They're scared to send their kids into work today.
They shouldn't be. Frankly, our law enforcement, our intelligence, our military has done a better job is getting ahead of this challenge. And the fact that we have a few small incidents that we have no evidence are directly coordinated, funded, or
but it just takes one incident to scare the crap out of you.
That's right. One of my concerns is that we not needlessly scare the American people. Some of our best response is when we pick ourselves up and go back to work the next day and make sure that we continue, because that's the whole goal of terrorists, is to scare us into inaction and to feel more at threat than we actually are.
And I hear you, and people of New York and New Jersey don't,
this is a tough, resilient town.
we get it. Yeah. But what really concerns me is that we don't capture and interrogate anymore. We've captured 3 people in 7.5 years.
Right.
So we're not on the ground in order to get the intelligence to stop the next attack in New York
But what
City.
encourages me is that we are, in fact, killing senior leaders of ISIS in Syria, in Iraq. We've just had in the last week two significant
I love the
senior
idea of a
successes.
dead terrorist, but you are on the
dead terrorist
I
makes
love
me
it.
very happy.
But you know what's better? A terrorist that talks. And those are the ones that used to be at Gitmo and allowed us to forensically reconstruct the entire al-Qaeda operation. And we don't even go into their pockets anymore.
To respond to what Donald Trump said in his tweet, just last month, 50 senior Republican former leaders in national security and in intelligence and the Homeland Security Department said that they don't believe Donald Trump has the character or
Senator,
intellect
we're
to be
talking
our
also about bringing in all
commander-in-chief.
these refugees. This guy in the mall in Minneapolis, he was a Somalian refugee. He's been in this country for 15 years. So these are the types of people America's scared to let into the country for these reasons.
Well, we're not letting any refugees into this country without significant, lengthy, detailed, individual
By the
vetting.
How are
UN.
you doing that?
The UN is
How are
doing
you
it.
doing that?
The
'Cause
UN
there's
is not doing that.
thousands.
It's done by the United Nations and by U.S. intelligence.
How do you do
and
that?
our national security. So we have only let in a few thousand compared to our ally Turkey, which is holding millions. Our best strategy, frankly, is to provide the support in Lebanon, in Jordan, in Turkey, for Syrian refugees to be supported and cared for in place while we work to stabilize the situation.
Does Germany have it right? Because Germany let in tens of thousands, and of last weekend they kicked out 6 ISIS terrorists already. We saw the random explosions and stabbings that are happening on those streets, and people are concerned that we're going to start doing the same thing that Germany was doing.
Well, I'll tell you what we shouldn't start doing, which is saying that we would block an entire religion from the United States. As I traveled in Eastern Europe this summer...
Well, no, they're saying that we should slow... You said slow down. You since amended that. But I'm just saying you, as somebody who's representing us, should understand that America doesn't have anything against anybody, but we should actually worry about who's coming here, because your main goal should be protecting us, not worrying about the perception of how we look.
Well, in August, I led a bipartisan delegation to visit 5 countries, mostly in Eastern Europe: Ukraine, Estonia, Czech Republic. And in several cases, they pushed back on, we're accepting refugees, why aren't you accepting refugees?
Sure.
And they raised lots of pointed questions about Donald Trump and whether what he was saying about our NATO alliance and our willingness to honor our NATO treaty commitments was in fact true. Many of the things Donald Trump has said in his unusual rise to be the Republican Party's nominee have deeply unsettled our treaty allies in Europe. And as Tim Kaine said, it is the sharing of intelligence, it is the further integration of our work to make sure we're vetting refugees that's most important.
Right, and he needs to walk a lot of that back.
We actually are going to have Donald Trump with us in about 20 minutes. We're going to talk to him about all things.
Thank you, Senator.
Great to be with you.
See you, Senator. Good luck with your meetings.